I'm excited today to have Todd Dawalt. He's with the Construction Leading Edge, going to be doing an awesome webinar for us about boosting your bottom line profits by getting paid for your estimates. So this has definitely been a hot topic. I've seen a lot more people asking questions about it, trying to learn more about, should I charge for my estimates? So, really appreciate you coming on, Todd, to kind of talk to us about that today. Real quick, just a couple of housekeeping things as usual. Want to remind everyone about Job Tread Pros, our Facebook group. If you're not part of it, we highly recommend you get on there. It's a great way to interact with our entire team as well as the whole community we've got. I think it's actually over 1,800 members part of this group now. So definitely get on there if you're not in there. And yeah, it'll be a good place to learn, share, and connect with others. We've also got some really awesome updates that have come out in the past couple of weeks with builder stories. Ben Snyder from Peak Sodding really had a great talk. I mean, this guy is I think he was 25 years old, started his business super young, has really built an incredible business, has shared some really good insight. Matt Blood here from Paragon Tile Installation had a great one too. David Bryan from Black Dog Builders, incredible story, huge company. Really didn't have as much insight as I do now about what they're doing. Really great one. And Liliana from the J Design Pool and Spa. Again, awesome episodes to tune into there. And of course, we've got Job Tread Connect just right around the corner now. I think we're maybe, 6-7 weeks out. Going to be January 17th to the 19th. If you hadn't gotten your tickets yet, definitely grab them as soon as you can, and be sure to get your room reserved at the hotel. You definitely want to stay at the conference hotel. It's attached to our office building. We've got a lot of events back and forth, so be sure to grab your tickets as soon as you can. And without further ado, I want to turn it over to Todd and let you kind of give us some knowledge, man. Walk us through what you got.
Sounds great. So yeah, I appreciate the opportunity, Eric, and your event, Job Tread Connect. If you've never been to a conference like this, they are incredibly powerful. It's just being around other people, the energy, the ideas that get shared, the relationships that get built are priceless. So if you're thinking about it, I would strongly encourage you to check it out. So we're going to talk about how to boost your bottom line profits by getting paid for estimates. And if you stick around until the end, if you want to get paid for estimates, but you're looking for tools, then stick around and I'll show you how to get our entire stack of tools so you can use to get paid for estimates for free. Okay. We're giving away our Get Paid for Estimates Masterclass. It's the same masterclass that has sold for a couple $1,000s in the past, and a few hundred people have gone through it. So who am I? My name is Todd Dawalt, and I live in Kentucky. I have my smoking hot teacher wife and a couple of dogs. My kids range from 17 up to 24 and live in a small town in Kentucky. And I'm the founder and host of the Construction Leading Edge podcast. I also run the Systematize Your Construction Business program. We've helped a couple of hundred construction business owners systematize their business. And I've been in the construction industry for about 25 years. And what I found a few years ago was that my clients were really struggling to scale their home building and their remodeling businesses. And figured out that the root cause was free estimates. So we're going to talk about that. And since then, we've helped 250 plus clients eliminate profit bleeds and get paid for estimates. And getting paid for estimates is a foundational piece of our platform at this point. And all of our clients do it. And I hope you do too before we're done today. So if you're interested in listening to interviews with construction business owners, you might want to check out the Construction Leading Edge podcast. It's been around since 2014, 310 or so episodes out there. It's been downloaded a little over 1.8 million times since then. And a little about my background. I have spent the last 25 years in construction, managing large commercial projects, small projects, custom homes. This is one of the biggest projects I ever managed, a 250-unit senior living community in Cincinnati. I managed the design, development, construction of a $30 million office building for Valvoline, and then built about 2 million square feet of industrial buildings. These are not sections of sidewalk. They're actually 600,000 square foot buildings. I've hosted live events and workshops for construction business owners since starting my business in 2018. I've spoken for trade organizations at the International Builder Shows, a few other groups. As I mentioned, we have a program called Systematize Your Construction Business. And then we have a CEO Alliance program. This is our group of about 20 of our clients who got together in Naples, Florida, a few weeks ago for a live event. And we had a nice little catamaran tour. Let me tell you about Adam. Adam was a client, and he was doing remodeling and exteriors out in Oregon. And he was approached about, quote, giving a bid on a custom home. It was his first custom home he had looked at. He desperately wanted to get into custom homes, and he was about to pass on it because he was going to have to spend 40 or so hours on the estimate, and he just didn't have time. And I said, before you pass on this, let's try something. And here's the text that he sent me afterward. Boom. Thank you. I wouldn't have ever tried it if I'd not been working with you. So I'll tell you the rest of that story in a little bit and how that turned out. And you might be surprised how his first time went getting paid for estimates. He certainly was surprised. So 20 years ago or so, when I was building houses and I had my own business, I did free estimates. And I was approached by this guy, Terry. He seemed like a great client. He was a pilot. He had land. He said I was his guy. So I went to work putting together floor plans, pricing, multiple revisions, all sorts of design work and planning and pricing, and had probably 40 or 60 hours in this, put it all together, sat down with he and his wife, gave him the price, which was 20 years ago, it was a little over $400,000. And he said, oh man, our budget is only about $130,000. And that includes the land. And I don't know who I was more angry at, Terry for wasting my time, or for myself for going so far, getting so deep into this without qualifying him, finding out what his budget was. It was incredibly frustrating. So I'm curious, have you ever worked with a Terry, somebody who wasted a lot of your time with their dreams and ultimately didn't go anywhere? Maybe they didn't have the budget. Maybe they just ghosted you. And how much time did you spend on that estimate? Maybe think about how much time do you spend every month on free estimates that don't actually go anywhere? Terry taught me a few valuable lessons. Number one, people are willing to waste your time on their projects, right? Number two, not everybody is a good customer. And then this one, number three, I learned that free estimates are the root cause of a lot of problems. Lots of problems. So I'm curious, type in the chat box, we'll pause briefly. How long does it take you to do an estimate? Is it 6 hours, 8 hours? Is it 40 hours? How much time does it take you to put together an estimate? Type that in the chat box. Might be interesting to see. So Paula said 1.5 hours. Josh said 30 minutes to 20 hours, depending on the scope. 10 to 15 hours, 8 hours, 30 minutes, 2.5 hours, 2 to 12 hours, 4 hours. Yeah. Yep. So wide range. Bigger the project, the more time you're going to spend on that, right? Now, on the topic of free estimates, I get a lot of hate. I get more hate about getting paid for estimates than anything. There are a wide range of opinions. So I've got a Facebook post out there, and I'll share just a few of the comments on this Facebook post where we're offering to teach people how to get paid for estimates. There's this guy, Eric, said, ridiculous. I'm happy to give homeowners a free estimate. I hope that free estimate has spell check in it. Chris said, if you can't go give a free estimate, you shouldn't be in business, period. Very strong opinion. And Steven says, hey, does your doctor give free estimates? Why would a professional offer a free service? Yeah, that's a good question. And I feel like Tony is a contractor. Tony said, I think it's time to change this dilemma of giving free estimates because we lose time, money, and other important things when people do not decide well what they want. So there's a wide range, lots of opinions. And I'm not here to try to convince you to get paid for estimates. If free estimates work for you, keep on rocking in the free world. Okay. However, if they're not working for you and maybe you're not happy giving free estimates, then I'm going to show you how you can do it, share some stories of some people who have done it successfully and they'll never go back. One of those is Travis Gardner. He builds custom homes, dream kitchens, and historic renovations in Richmond, Virginia. And here's where he was before we started working together, spending 30 plus hours per estimate, wasting a lot of time on estimates for tire kickers. He got his first pre-construction agreement signed without question. And he collected a surprising amount in pre-construction fees in the first month. So here's an email that Travis sent me. He said, hey, I met with my first pre-construction client. We budgeted her pergola at 23 grand, including $3,000 in pre-construction fees. Then what happened was she signed off on that plus some upgrades. And now we have a contract for a $43,000 job before he did any estimates. He was getting paid $3,000 for that. So if you've never been paid for estimates, think about it. What would it be like to get paid $3 grand to put together an estimate for a $23,000 job and then turn it into a $43,000 job? Well, if you're curious how much Travis made in the first month, then I'll let you hear it from him. Here's a short section of an interview. You'll want to have this, make sure you can hear the sound on this one.
We have over $10,000 in pre-construction management fee that we've collected in the last month. We know that the projects we're working a price are projects that we're going to deliver. I just thought, will people pay for this? And what I've now realized, and what I think the masterclass got me over, was explaining the value. We decided to give a try to a pre-construction agreement, to end the practice of free estimates. We've been doing it now for, maybe a little over a month. So we don't have a lot of experience, but my experience has been far more positive than I would have imagined.
So to recap, he got paid $3,000 for an estimate on a $23,000 project. The first time he tried it, upsold it to a $43,000 project, collected $10,000 in pre-construction fees in the first month. Now, and this was a couple of years ago, now Travis suddenly has revenue to pay for a project manager, in addition to saving all the time that he was going to spend on free estimates that didn't go anywhere, plus a host of other benefits that we'll get into. So why does this getting paid for estimates method work so well for Travis? Why does it work so well? Getting a check for estimates is one thing, but there are several other reasons why it works so well. Number one, he doesn't have to rely on hiring more employees. If Travis wanted to scale up his business doing free estimates, he would have to hire more salespeople to run more appointments, maybe hire an estimator to do more estimates. But now he doesn't need to hire staff to cover for him while he spends most of his time doing free estimates because he's getting paid for every estimate. Number two, getting paid for estimates makes his projects more profitable. Getting paid for estimates makes his projects more profitable. I'll explain that in a few more minutes. So there are three things that I showed Travis and I want to show you to help you get paid for estimates. Number one, it's very likely that free estimates are killing your bottom line. Number two, this may surprise you, but your ideal customer wants to pay you for an estimate. That's right. Your ideal customer sees the value and they want to pay for an estimate. They don't want a free estimate. They want a paid pre-construction services agreement. Number three, there are 5 pieces that you need to have in place to what we call the get paid for estimates bridge. 5 pieces you want to have in place so you can get paid for estimates. And this doesn't just work for people doing dream kitchens and historic renovations in Richmond, Virginia. It'll work for you if you are a custom home builder if you do remodeling, or if you are a commercial general contractor doing light commercial work. It'll also work for pretty much any type of project that involves design, selections, detailed specifications, planning, and scheduling. Okay. The only reason there are a few reasons and a few types of contractors this probably won't work well for. If you are a commercial subcontractor, it's not going to work for you. If you are doing a hard bid work for the government, it's not going to work. Or if you're a specialty contractor and you can price jobs very quickly, it's not going to make much sense for you to charge a premium for estimates. I'm still going to encourage you to get paid for your time. So here's the deal. We have declared war on free estimates because of a lot of the reasons that I just mentioned and some more that we'll get into. And we're looking for people to help get paid for estimates, just like Travis did. So if you want to end the practice of free estimates, then there are 3 things that I want to cover with you that you need to do. Number 1, you've got to understand that free estimates could be killing your bottom line. All right. It's very possible that free estimates are killing your bottom line. Another way to say that is that when you get paid for estimates, you can boost your bottom line. You're like a lot of people, you may believe that you'll start losing money if you try to charge for estimates, but it may actually help you make more money. For our clients, it is proven to help them increase their profit margins and increase their revenue. There may be some fears like, what if we lose customers? What if it's bad for business? What if this? Well, let me ask you this. What if you're experiencing profit bleeds that are caused by doing free estimates? What if the root cause of some of your problems, the reason you can't grow your business, the reason you're stuck, what if it's because you're doing free estimates? I'll explain that in a few more minutes. Let's take a look at some of the most common symptoms, or what we call profit bleeds, on your projects. These are some of the most common profit bleeds, right? So if you think about a project, when the contract is signed, there's a certain amount of profit in it. And then over the course of the project, that profit bleeds out. Sometimes they're little pinpricks, it's death by 1,000 paper cuts. Sometimes it's an RPG round directly to the profit, and all the profits gone. So here are some of the most common profit bleeds. Rework, doing work twice, getting paid once. Giveaways, doing work and not getting paid for it because of some combination of reasons. Schedule delays and overruns. Lost productivity. Missed expectations with clients, difficult conversations with clients that often start with things like, well, I thought you said this, and I thought I told you, I thought you said, all of this sort of stuff. So when we look at these symptoms, chaos on projects, and if you do a root cause analysis, in many cases, you'll find that they can be traced back to the gaps. Gaps, which are allowances in your contracts, unknown materials, plug numbers, assumptions, maybe unforeseen conditions on a remodel project, special permits you didn't know about, materials that have been discontinued or have some crazy lead time, or like a few years ago, sudden lumber price increases, right? And then if you dig further, why do these gaps exist in my contracts? You might find, well, it's because we had to do a free estimate. We didn't have time to plan. We didn't have time to price everything out because it had to be free. Here's another way to look at it. All those profit bleeds, maybe all the chaos you're dealing with, all the firefighting you're doing, solving problems that somebody else should be handling or maybe never should have happened. Why are they happening? Maybe it's because you don't have time. You don't have time to plan properly. You don't have time to train. You don't have time to make selections. You don't have time to do the things you want to do. You're constantly in reactive mode, constantly playing defense, putting out fires. Why? Why don't we have time? Maybe it's because you're spending too much of your time doing free estimates. There can also be a vicious cycle that's caused by free estimates. So we talked about these gaps, right? So you sign a contract and it has these gaps and allowances and assumptions and guesses, and maybe gambles, and then you start the project, and these gaps and allowances lead to profit bleeds like rework, delays, giveaways, lost productivity. And this sets off a domino effect of chaos and confusion, right? Running out to job sites, dealing with problems, lots and lots of phone calls, hundreds of messages a day. And when there's chaos and confusion and you're spending a lot of time doing firefighting, then you don't have time to be strategic. You don't have time to look ahead. You don't have time to do business development. So when you run out of work, you're on this roller coaster, you realize, oh, we have to get work. So we go out and do some free estimates because we have to fill the pipeline. And then the cycle starts all over again, right? So I'm curious, what about you? Type it in the chat box. Which of these profit bleeds are hurting your operation the most? Where is the profits bleeding out? Is it rework, giveaways, schedule delays, lost productivity? Which of those is hurting your bottom line the most? Type that in the chat box. Dirk said, loss of productivity. Selena, giveaways. Lance, schedule and lost productivity. Craig said, schedule delays. Jason, rework and schedule delays. These are very, very common. And as you look at those profit bleeds, if you're doing free estimates, is it possible that there's a connection between those profit bleeds and free estimates, right? It's very possible. Let's look at this a different way. Here is another way to visualize what happens when you do free estimates and the trap. There's a trap that free estimates push you into. Here's what it looks like. This is the old way. This is a very basic Gantt chart, and we have this line of pre-construction. And we're doing pre-construction activities up to a point, and then construction starts. And then we continue with pre-construction, and we have this overlap between what should be pre-construction and construction. And where there's overlap, there's chaos. Designs being finalized, selections getting finalized, allowances getting reconciled, budgets getting blown, ordering materials late, only to find it will take months or it's discontinued. People who should just be managing field crews are suddenly managing this whole selection process and budget changes and juggling all this chaos, changes, questions, missing information. It's chaos. This is what we call the JETS trap, the just enough to start. Doing just enough to start, just enough to get an estimate out, just enough to get a contract signed, just enough to get the crew started, just enough to start. So think about this for a moment. Think about the ripple effects of the just enough to start trap. When your trade partners and your field crews have 50 to 75% of the information they need and they get stuck, what do? If they don't have all of the information, they have a few options. They can either guess or they can call someone. And who are they going to call? Probably you in many cases. This applies to hiring employees also. It also shows up. What happens when you hire someone and you give them just enough to start? And then when you fast track a project and you do just enough to get a contract signed so you can start and say, we'll figure out the rest of it later, then what happens, right? I can tell you, I've been on plenty of fast track projects and it's chaos. So if you're being honest, are you sometimes guilty of stepping in that just enough to start thinking trap? And think about it for a minute. How does being in that just enough to start mindset cause stress for you? How is it keeping you stuck in firefighting mode, stuck, trapped, unable to grow and scale your business? Now, enough about that. Let's talk about the new way. Here's the new way. You have pre-construction that completes before construction starts. And then in between pre-construction and construction, you nail the handoff, right? Nailing the handoff is the key. This is how you avoid 80% of the chaos and profit bleeds on your projects. I just interviewed a guy named Wes Palmisano, and he scaled his business up to $250 million a year. And he said, we did it by focusing on pre-construction. 90% of the problems on a job site can be solved during a pre-construction process. So when you get paid for estimates, the entire pre-construction process, when you get paid for pre-construction, you can nail the handoff. Instead of giving them just enough to start, you give your field crews everything they need to finish. All selections, your field team only has to build per the plan and specs, not try to figure everything out as they go. So think about that for a minute. What would it be like if your projects were like this? If you were able to nail the handoff from the office to the field, what would that do for you? If you're getting a lot of phone calls right now from your team, do you think that might reduce the number of calls, the number of fires you have to put out? What would it do for your team? Would it decrease their stress level, maybe increase their stress level? What do you think? And what about your trade partners? Would it make them more likely to want to work on your projects or less likely? And then let's not forget about your customers. Do you think your customers might have a better experience during the construction process if you're nailing the handoff? So speaking of customers, let's talk about this statement. Your ideal customer wants to pay you for pre-construction, okay? Your ideal customer wants to pay you for pre-construction. So I'm going to give you, you'll be able to get all of this two entire sales scripts that you can use in a few minutes, but I'll pull out 3 questions. If you're wondering, how in the world can I convince somebody to pay me for pre-construction when everybody else around me is doing free estimates? Is anybody wondering that question? Right? If you are, it's very common. How can I possibly convince them to pay me when everybody else is offering it for free? Okay. I'll give you 3 questions. So here's the first question. In our line of work, you would say something like this. Look, in our line of work, it takes an average of 10 estimates to sell 5 projects. So who pays for the 5 free estimates? All right. Somebody's paying for it. And you might say, and this is a quote from a remodeling contractor, he said, who pays for the 5 free estimates? When I realized I was punishing the 5 clients who hired me, I decided to stop this outrageous practice. This guy even went as far as to say free estimates are unethical because you're charging the wrong person for the estimate. The second question is this. Have you ever heard of projects that double in size and take twice as long, cost twice as much? You could say something like this. I found that the reason that some people give free and, let's face it, unrealistic estimates is just to try to get their foot in the door. When somebody's doing something for nothing, and there's no such thing as something for nothing, how will they make up for the lost time? The reality is other contractors are building in their time to give you that free estimate. You're just not going to pay for it until you've hired them. Then you'll also pay for the other 5 bids they didn't get. And then after the job starts, they uncover issues that maybe they knew about, but they didn't tell you about, or they overlooked in their free estimates. Maybe they lowballed some allowances just to get the job, got you over a barrel. And then that results in the dreaded words, change order. And this is where free estimates can get very, very expensive. And then this third one, this is my favorite question. If you don't take anything away from this webinar except this, it will make it worthwhile. Here's the question. You can say, okay, somebody approaches you and they ask for a bid or ask for an estimate. You can say, okay, at this phase, we have this stage of a project, we really have 2 options. Option 1 is we can give you a free estimate. We'll have to include a bunch of assumptions and allowances because we don't have full material selections. Maybe the design isn't even complete. Certainly, if you don't have floor plans, you have no idea what it's going to cost. If you don't have all the material selections made and detailed specs, you're going to have to include assumptions and allowances, maybe have to include some contingencies, some additional cost. Then this will result in change orders. As we figure all these details out, you'll sign a contract for the entire amount upfront and take that risk. You'll write a check for a big deposit, and then we'll get started figuring out all of these details as we go. That's option one. Option two involves a small investment up front, so we can do the planning and the design work up front. You'll have complete clarity on what you're going to build and how much it's going to cost before any work starts, before we even break ground. You'll have a chance to even give us a test drive, see if you like how we operate. You'll make a small commitment, a small percentage of the contract, and you'll write a small check up front. And then if you move forward with the project, it's not going to cost you anything, because either we're going to apply that deposit or that pre-construction fee to the cost of the contract, or we're going to save you enough money to more than cover it. So here's the question. Here's the question you would ask. When would you prefer, Mr. or Mrs. Prospect, when would you prefer to find out how much it's going to cost? In the middle of the project or before you get started? When would you prefer to find out how much it's going to cost? In the middle, and that's what we're going to do with the free estimates, or would you prefer to get all of that information before you get started? That's why we do a pre-construction services agreement. Okay, does that make sense? Can you imagine yourself asking someone that question right there that's on the screen? That's how you get them to see the value without even talking about the value of your time or anything else. You make it about them. Okay, so here are the three questions you can ask. Who pays for the free estimates? Have you ever heard of projects that double in size, cost? And then when would you prefer to find out? Here's another. You may just want to grab a piece of paper and draw a very simple graph, okay? So on this graph, on the horizontal axis, this is time, okay? And over here on the left side is the planning phase, and over on the right side is construction, and over here would be the end of the project, okay? On the vertical axis, goes from low to high, right? So the first line you could draw would be to say, this is the opportunity for change. As you can see, when you're in the planning and the design phase, opportunity for change is practically unlimited. We can draw anything. But as we go through construction, that opportunity goes down. And as we get to the end of construction, there are some things we just can't do. It's just nearly impossible to do that. And then the other line you could draw would be the cost of change. Cost to move an electrical outlet when it's just not even lines on paper, but something in a Revit file. It doesn't cost anything. It's zero. But to move that outlet after construction is complete, exponentially more. So you could show them this graph and say, when's the best time to make your decisions? When's the best time to make all of your selections and figure out exactly what you're going to build? And if they're a reasonably sane person, they would say, as early in the process as possible. Bingo. That's why we get paid for pre-construction. All right. So here's what it looks like when you start getting paid for estimates. You'll have some of the side effects are you'll have time to work on your business instead of just working in it, because you're reclaiming all that time that's currently going to free estimates. You will automatically increase your bottom line because you'll be preventing profit bleeds. You'll know exactly how to quickly filter out tire kickers, because there's no better way to filter out tire kickers than to tell them to write you a check. So I'm curious, let's pause for a moment. What's going to be the best part for you? And maybe you are getting paid for, if you're currently getting paid for pre-construction, what is the best part for you? If you're not getting paid for pre-construction? Type that in the chat box. What will be the best part for you about getting paid for pre-construction and estimating? We'll pause for just a few seconds. Dirk said, having a well-defined scope of work. I'll just slide this over here so you guys can see it. Brian said, focused and independent time spent on individual customers. Yeah, definitely. You'll definitely have more time to spend with your paying customers. Right on. Bidding on projects I know we will get. Lance said, get rid of the tire kickers. So have more time to work on the business and our perfect type of client. Yeah. Focused time on paying clients. Yep, absolutely. Time. That's a big one. Excellent. Good stuff. Okay, got some more ground to cover. So you guys doing okay? All right, let's keep on trucking. So let me tell you about how a remodeling contractor was able to get paid for an estimate, even though everybody around him, his competition, were doing them for free. How did a remodeling contractor get paid for an estimate, even though his competition was doing them for free? Well, this is Chris Miller. He was from Louisiana, and he very reluctantly tried this with a repeat client, okay? Surrounded by competitors who did it for free. He had done free estimates for years. He had a repeat client who he had done a free estimate for. He had all sorts of reasons not to even try it. And here's what happened. He sent me this text, said, we will be collecting a $3,500 check tomorrow for our first pre-con agreement. So the results, Chris collected $8,000 in estimates in 2 weeks. Collected $8,000 in pre-construction services agreements in 2 weeks when everybody around him was doing it for free. And at least one of these clients was a repeat customer. So let's take a moment. I've got a challenge for you. I want you to grab a piece of paper or pull out your phone and be able to jot down a couple of things. I want you to pick one of the projects that you need to estimate. This is a project that you really want to get. It's right in your wheelhouse, good client, right size, good timing, something you really want to get to. Maybe it's been sitting on your desk for a while and you just haven't really been able to get to it. So I want you to jot down a couple of numbers, and I'm going to ask you to put these in the chat box. Actually, you can just start typing these in the chat box. First of all, what's the ballpark budget of that project? What's your best guess? 500,000, 50,000, 2 million. Okay. And then what is 2% of that? Okay. So what's 2% of that? And then how would you collect that money? Would it be, I'd like you to put that amount. What would be 2% of that estimated amount in there? And how would you collect that? Would it be $500 by credit card, $2,000 by check, $5,000 through a suitcase of unmarked bills? What would 2% of that be, and how would you collect it? So Dirk said $1,000 in beer. I like it. That's an interesting currency. Get paid for estimates in beer. Love it. So we've got a few projects. So like $50,000. Brian said $200K. Another Brian said $200K. The next Brian said $4K. Lance said $100,000. So 2% of that. So 2% of $100,000 is $2,000. And how would you collect that? Would you want them to give you a check? Would you want them to give you a credit card? Maybe you've got some other method like beer, suitcase of unmarked 50s. Pay online. Yep. Okay. So think about that. Imagine if you do that once or twice a month, right? So Lance, imagine you've got a $100,000 project. Imagine you get 2 of those come along and you get a check for $2,000 twice a month, $4,000 a month, $48,000 a year. And you're not spending any time on tire kickers and free estimates, right? Sounds pretty good. Yeah, absolutely. Brian Brian Weirster's got a great answer. Check that's tracked using JobTread. All right. Like it. I like it. Okay. So just picture that. If you're currently doing free estimates, I want you to picture what it would be like to get that check. You get a couple of those checks. That first check when you're not sure it's going to work. And that, like with Travis Gardner, what he told me was he pitched that idea, $3,000 pre-construction agreement. The client said, I sent him a message that said, hey, the check is taped to the door. Come over and get it. No questions asked, right? So just think about that. All right. Number two, if you want to get paid for estimates like Travis and Chris and Adam and all of our other clients, you need to have the 5-piece get paid for estimates bridge. I'm going to give you this, but I want to show you what this looks like. There are some key pieces you have to have in place. Just like a bridge, if you're missing a one piece, it's not going to work, right? So first piece is you've got to get your mindset right. You have to see the value. You have to wrap your head around it. You have to make a decision that this is the way. This is the only way that we're going to do this. You need to make a firm decision that it's in everybody's best interest and we're not going back, right? The second piece is the process. This is completely different. This is a completely different sales process than doing free estimates, right? You need to have a process to qualify leads into prospects. You need to have a step-by-step roadmap that you're going to walk people through. We're not going to jump into design work. We're not going to talk feasibility. We're not going to do sticks and bricks and measurements and sketches. This is a whole new way of selling. And then there's the pre-construction process. Once you get them to sign a pre-construction agreement, how are you going to not only keep them as a customer and convert them into a construction contract, but make them a raving fan? And how do you set the process up so these projects are profitable for you? And the third piece is the pricing. How much are you going to charge for this effort? What makes sense? How are other people doing it? How can you charge not just a little bit of money, but how can you charge a premium for pre-construction work? The fourth piece is the pre-construction agreement, the document that you're going to have them sign that lists the deliverables, the scope of work you're going to do, which is very different from a construction contract. And then the fifth piece, the keystone, is the script. You need to understand what are the underlying fears that your clients have? How can you show them the value? What are the questions? What are the concepts? What are the actual words you're going to say to these people? And then once you have these 5 pieces in place, it's going to give you the complete step-by-step process. Maybe most importantly, it will give you the confidence to actually try it, right? You'll know exactly what needs to be included in your proposal and how to determine that. You'll understand how to put together a pre-construction services agreement, even if you've never tried. And again, maybe the most valuable things you'll get from this is the confidence, knowing you're going to use a proven system. Look, one of the hardest parts of doing this is just trying to figure it out yourself. A lot of people have tried to DIY it, but hey, if the wheel's already been invented, why reinvent the wheel? All right. So we're going to give you a pre-construction services agreement template you can use. And you're like a lot of people, you may love having a step-by-step process, the system that you could start with and then customize it. And then maybe best of all, you'll never have to worry about wasting 8, 12, 30 hours on an estimate, again, that doesn't go anywhere. So this guy on the left this is Andy Culp. And this picture was taken at a live event we had in Lexington, Kentucky at a bourbon distillery. I'm in Kentucky. We like bourbon. So we went to a bourbon distillery. So Andy Culp he and I started working together several years ago, and he was doing free estimates. He's a high-end remodeling contractor in Columbus, Ohio. And after we worked to transition his business to the get paid for estimates method, he sent me this text. Just got my 3rd pre-con services agreement signed since Friday. Notice this was sent on a Tuesday. Got 3 agreements signed since Friday. So he collected 3 signed pre-construction agreements and the checks that go along with it in a week. He collected about $32,000 for estimates in the first 6 months. And we did a case study with Andy discussing how he grew his business. We did this case study last year, and we discussed how he grew his business by 75% year over year. And then the following year, he was planning on doubling it again. So you can listen to that case study with Andy Culp on episode 272 of the Construction Leading Edge podcast. But Andy was able to grow his team and increase his revenue by 75% year over year after he started doing that. So step one to get paid for estimates is get clear on the value to you and your prospects. Step two is get the 5-piece get paid for estimates bridge in place. And the step 3 is to fine tune your process, right? You have to customize it a little bit, fine tune your process so you actually get paid for an estimate. So we're going to show you how much to charge for estimates. There's no hard and fast rules. We'll give you some guidance with our pre-con pricing guide. We'll give you the 5-part framework that we use to make it really simple to put together a pre-construction agreement. You'll get 2 sales scripts you can use with your next prospect. Just literally print this thing off, ask them these questions. And that's what people have done to get paid for estimates. So you won't have to guess at what to say. And when you have this in place, long-term outcomes, you'll have more time, you'll have more money, and you'll have more freedom, right? I'm guessing that may be what you're after. And very simply, when you have this in place, you're going to get paid for estimates. And when you're getting paid for estimates, you're going to have time to work on your business instead of feeling stuck in it. You'll be able to focus on the strategic stuff, the CEO level stuff, instead of wasting 30, 40, 60, 80 hours a month on estimates that don't go anywhere. And you can finally stop worrying about profit bleeds caused by free estimates. So the tricky part about getting paid for estimates, there are a few tricky parts here, right? So let's face it, one of the trickiest parts is convincing yourself that free estimates are bad for everybody. They're not good for clients. They're not good for you. They're not good for your team. So when you become convinced that free estimates are bad for everybody, it's going to make it a lot easier for you to make that transition. Knowing how to put it all together and how much to charge to make sure you don't miss something. And then knowing how to sell this. How do you sell this when your competitors give it away for free? And let's face it, this is probably the biggest obstacle to getting paid for estimates, or frankly, biggest obstacle to any kind of change. Old habits are hard to break. Old habits are hard to break. It's easier to do the same old, dumb, painful thing one more day, one more week, one more month than to go through the discomfort of change, right? So my goal here, I hope I poked some of that discomfort a little bit so that you'll realize that you're dealing with a lot of discomfort. You're dealing with a lot of profit bleeds that are caused by free estimates. And also, my goal is to reduce the amount of discomfort and pain you have to go through in order to get paid for estimates and shortcut that learning cycle. All right, so we've been going on for 45 minutes or so. Maybe you feel like this guy. I have been going pretty fast. I've thrown a lot of stuff at you. But the reality is there's no way to cover everything that you need in an hour. I can't answer all of your questions in 45 minutes. Can't even do it in several hours. So I did put together a special program, our Get Paid for Estimates Masterclass, to help you get paid for estimates, right? So if you'd like our help to get paid for estimates, then listen up. So think about this. What would it be like if you could finally get paid for estimates, right? What would be, so here's the deal. We've got a coaching program. It's called the Get Paid for Estimates Masterclass, where I'll show you everything we've gone over in this webinar, and I'll actually help you get paid for your first estimates and every estimate after that. These are text messages and emails on the screen from people who got paid for their very first estimate. So It's called the Get Paid for Estimates Masterclass. I'll show you how to get it for free in about 60 seconds. Let me show you what you're going to get. You're going to get the 5-piece Get Paid for Estimates bridge. You'll get the pre-construction services agreement template that you can modify as you see fit, or just use it right off the shelf. You'll get the pre-construction pricing guide. You'll get 2 sales scripts that you can use either over the phone or in person to show people the value of paying for pre-construction. You're going to get this for free. Total value is $5,200. Because you need confidence, right? Excuse me. Because you need confidence, we're also going to include some interviews called the How They Did It series. You'll hear, what were their concerns before they started? What was their pricing approach? And then how did it go? You'll hear from this guy. This is Bobby Williams from Plainfield, Indiana. He's one of the folks we interviewed. And you'll notice 2 things about Bobby. One is he's smoking a pipe. And I don't think I've ever been on a Zoom call with a guy smoking a pipe before, which was pretty cool. And he also has that whiteboard behind him. And as we were having this conversation, I asked Bobby how much he had been paid for pre-construction agreements, and he spun around and looked at his whiteboard. And he said he had collected $40,000 in the first 6 months of 2021. So they're a relatively small company, and $40,000 in 6 months was a significant amount of revenue. And the money he collected was one of the many benefits of getting paid for estimates. So if you want to check out Bobby's podcast episode, well, you can you'll be able to hear his video, his case study, but you can also listen to episode 295 of the Construction Leading Edge podcast. Bobby's a great guy. So again, what you're going to get is all of this stuff, everything you need, everything that we work with our clients to get paid for estimates. And let me ask you this, right? You're not going to invest any money, but you are going to invest. You're going to have to invest some time and some discomfort. So if all you got out of this, if you went through the effort to learn how to get paid for estimates, and all you got out of this was you got paid for 1 estimate a month, would that be worth spending some time on? If all it did for you was to give you, say, 2 hours a week to be strategic, to meet with architects, do business development, work on your business, would that be worth a one-time investment of some time and discomfort? If all this did was just give you time to do what you want, maybe take a vacation, reclaim 30, 60, 80 hours a month, would that be worth spending a few hours on? So if you're down with that, the good news is you can enroll in our Get Paid for Estimates Masterclass. Get the full masterclass, everything you need at that link right there. constructionleadingedge.com/start. START. constructionleadingedge.com/start. And you'll get all of that stuff for free, no strings attached, because we have declared war on free estimates. Now, let me tell you about this guy. Remember Adam? He was doing exteriors and remodeling, and he had a shot to give a bid on a custom home. He was about to pass on it. And I said, hey, let's see if we can get paid for estimates. And here's the text he sent me. He got paid $7,500 to do pre-construction work on his first custom home. The very first time he tried it. $7,500. Now, maybe you're wondering, Todd, does this work in Australia? Does the Get Paid for Estimates method work in Australia? And I would say, what an obscure question, but I'm glad you asked, because the answer is yes. This is Manish Cartier and his wife, Michelle, and they live in Brisbane, Australia, and they ran a remodeling business, and we worked together. Manish was doing free estimates. We switched over to the Get Paid for Estimates method, and he sent me this email. Long story short, we just got signed up for a $31,000 pre-construction proposal for a potential build worth $600K. Very happy. Very happy. That's probably an understatement. So you might be wondering, yeah, but is that in Australian dollars or US dollars? Who cares? It's $31,000 for a $600,000 project. So it works in Australia, it works in Plainfield, Indiana, it works in Louisiana, in Ohio, it works in the Northwest, it works in the Southeast, it works everywhere. Jason Sheff said this: charging and only working in the world of paid design agreements was a game changer. Aaron Steffens, who's in Iowa, said, I decided to use 3%, and I've earned $6,500 from 3 clients in deposit money before providing any estimates. So if you're ready to get paid for estimates, if you're willing to invest some time in a proven system, go to constructionleadingedge.com/START, enroll in that free masterclass. Here's what it's going to look like. When you get there, all you'll need to do is put your name, email, phone number in there, and you'll have instant access. We'll email you instant access to the online member area where you'll have the full masterclass. Okay. And if you want to hear from some of our clients, you can go to our website, constructionleadingedge.com/results, and hear from Ashley and James and Cameron and Neil and lots of other people talking about their experience working with us. Some talking about getting paid for estimates, others talking about systematizing their business. Again, you can check that out at that link. And if you would like to systematize your construction business, if you'd like to get out of firefighting mode, and if you want to have a business that will run without you, if you'd like to get out of your business to some degree so that it will run without you, maybe it's so you can take a 3-day weekend, take a 2-week vacation, maybe to be able to step away and sell it someday, then you absolutely need to systematize your business. And that's really what we specialize in, is helping people systematize their construction business. So if you'd like to learn how to nail the handoff on all of your projects, if you'd like to design your organization for the future and put some crucial systems in place, the first step would be to apply for a business evaluation call with my team. And you can do that at constructionleadingedge.com/apply, APPLY. We're not right for everybody. You'll see who qualifies for that and when you go to that link. Okay, let's talk about questions. If you have a question, please put that in the chat box. And again, if you're ready to rock and roll and go get paid for estimates, there's the link. Do that. Go to constructionleadingedge.com/start. All right, questions here. I saw a few questions. So Lance had a question. So are you getting paid when they sign the construction agreements? We're talking about getting paid for a pre-construction services agreement. So what that process would look like is you would spend a little time putting together a pre-construction agreement proposal. They would sign it, you would get paid, and then you would do the pre-construction work, estimating, planning, et cetera, present a full proposal for a construction agreement, and then sign the construction agreement. Eric said, sounds great, Todd. How do you make money? That's a great question. We give away a lot of stuff, right? So we have 310 podcast episodes. We have lots of webinars we give away. Our approach is to give away massive value. That's our business development strategy. And we have our Systematize Your Construction Business program and our CEO Alliance program, which is a high-level mastermind program for folks. Let's see, Dirk has a question. I assume you show all the details with the client for a paid estimate. You would show all the details. Do you show your profit and overheads on the estimate? That's up to you. Depends on how you price it. If you're cost plus, is it lump sum? How do you do that? Does the resulting estimate belong to the client so they can choose another contractor? Well, this is a good question. What if they use another contractor? What if they take my estimate and go work with somebody else? Well, one of the benefits of taking someone through a pre-construction agreement is that they will get to know you, get to learn to like you and trust you through that process. And it's an opportunity for you to build that relationship and invest in that relationship with the client so that they won't want to go anywhere else. So if you do it right, that won't be a problem. But as far as what level of detail do you show, that's really up to you. That's really up to you. Fabrizio has a question. Do you tell customers before placing at 3% pre-construction agreement? So this is a good question. The ballpark cost, a good range is say 1 to 2%. Do not tell them that you're going to charge them 2% of the estimated construction cost, right? Because the pre-construction effort it's not directly correlated to the construction cost, right? So what that thought process would be is you would do a quick budgetary estimate and say, this is a $500,000 project. Maybe it's $700,000, depending on the level of finish. You would say the pre-construction services would be $10,000 for this project, right? I've seen some people make that mistake of saying, we're going to charge you 2%, and only use the percentage to come to a number, and then give them what you would want to do is propose a fixed fee for pre-construction services. That way you're doing all the negotiation up front. You're not haggling over hours. You're not haggling over stuff like that. All the negotiation happens up front. Fixed fee up front, and stay away from time and material stuff. Do you basically eyeball it when you initially view the project and base your percentage on that? Yes. That's basically it. Because let's say it's a kitchen remodel. That kitchen remodel could be $50,000 or $250,000, depending on the level of finish. But the amount of effort that goes into that pre-construction process isn't going to vary by 3 or 4x, depending on that. So, all right.
Hey, Todd, I wanted to make sure you saw the question in the Q&A from Adam Jackson.
Yes, I'm looking at that now. We also install them. Okay, here's a question. I'll just slide this over here onto the screen. I own a cabinet design and sales. We also install them. It takes 10 to 15 hours for preliminary design, renderings, and pricing. I cannot accurately estimate the cost of the cabinets because it varies so much with door styles. How would you recommend I charge for the preliminary design? Should I simply charge a flat fee for my time if they decide to continue after seeing the pricing and renderings? I would definitely recommend that you charge a flat fee. And the thought process that you'll hear when putting together your pricing and your agreement is what's the next step you're trying to get the client to? What information do they need to make the next decision? And you would price that effort. So if you think it takes 15 hours, my advice would be give them a lump sum price, fixed fee for a fixed set of deliverables. And you could put some brackets around that, 1 or 2 revisions, or just let them know if we have to go back and forth more than at some point, we'll come back to you and let you know this is as far as we can go. And we can continue doing this, but there will be additional design fees. Good question.
All right. Well, I think we're reaching the top of the hour here. Or actually, we exceeded it just a bit, but wanted to thank you, Todd, for going through all this. Very insightful. Obviously, you've got some more resources, some action steps here for everyone who wants to learn more. I appreciate you coming on, and thank you for taking the time to go through this.
My pleasure. Thanks for the opportunity, Eric. And folks, let's if you're not getting paid for estimates, then go sign up for our free masterclass. Get in there, give it a shot, and just let's do what Travis said. Decide to end the practice of free estimates. What do you say?